I don't think you need to know too much about this, except that the main character is a woman who is haunted by the ghost of her brother. She doesn't go outside anymore. Her brother, her dead brother, her ghost, the brother's ghost, is at the Spring Garden Road Library in Halifax. And she lives in the North End, and she is struggling. She doesn't go outside. And she has 2 homing pigeons living in her house with her. It's problematic because she hates birds. She needs them. They take messages to the ghost. It's very complicated. I don't know what to tell you. I wrote it on a So anyway, here's just a little thing about guitars. Nathan's first guitar sounded like shit. It wasn't just because he was still learning how to play it, it's that it genuinely was a piece of utter garbage. Special only because his hands had moved over its strings. His fingers had found their places on the fretboard. The guitar was unremarkable in every way. Leah couldn't even find a manufacturer's mark on it. The neck was worn, the strings now untunable, she suspected. It had not been played in years, the almost year since Nathan had died, and who knew how many before that. He'd long moved on to better instruments. This one he'd played as a teenaged enthusiast, a gangly nerd who'd quickly surpassed even his fellow brainers. In his advanced math class, Nathan had turned to music as an outlet for his excess mathematical energy. Leah couldn't understand that part of him. Math, just the thought of it, made her scalp itch. But Nathan had picked up this old guitar and learned to play it using what he knew of logic and pattern. The guitar had always been around, as long as they had and longer. It was battered and worn, a terrible instrument, made of little better than pressboard. Their father had given it to their mother the first Christmas they were married. He had bought it from Consumers Distributing. It had cost $25, which was a lot of money in those days, especially to a young, newly married couple who were saving to buy a house. It was never clear to Leah and Nathan whether their mother actually played the guitar, or was even interested in learning. They'd certainly never seen her with it in her hands, but she loved music, sang along with abandon to the radio, raced their father downstairs on Sunday mornings to be the first to reach the stereo and pick the music that would accompany their breakfast. If she won, it was Buddy Holly or the Beatles. If their father got there first, it would be Roy Orbison, or worse, Bob Dylan, or worst of all, Al Jolson. The guitar had sat in the basement for years, leaning in a corner, its pale wood barely glinting. Then Nathan picked it up one night and slowly, painfully, learned to coax songs out of it. He played Roxanne by the Police and sang along, his adolescent voice cracking wide open on the high notes. It was the most lugubrious version of the song Leah had ever heard. But here was someone she knew, her own brother, actually playing the guitar and singing. Leah was impressed enough with that. The song sounded concert hall ready to her. When Nathan went away to university, he used some of the money from his part-time job tutoring math to buy himself a proper guitar. But he took the first one with him regardless, and it sat in his dorm room and got played once in a while by some drunken friend whose understanding of logic and pattern was similar to Nathan's, though perhaps not as acute. But then again, with all that beer around, it was hard to tell. When Nathan died, Rebecca gave that first guitar to Leah. "I can't have it around," Rebecca had said, inclining her head toward the instrument, but not looking right at it. "I just can't have it in my house." It was my house already, not our house anymore. Leah took the guitar wordlessly by the neck. It had never had a case that she knew of, and carried it out of Rebecca's house. She put it in the back seat of her car where it sat like a silent passenger all the way back to Halifax. Once in a while she'd glance at it in the rear-view mirror. She fought with herself to keep from speaking to it. At first she kept it on a stand she'd bought specially for it in the living room, but people asked questions, wanted to hear her play it, and she couldn't. She'd never learned. She, like her mother, loved to belt out songs along with the radio, would sing whatever she could whenever she got the chance, but logic and pattern eluded her, always had, and she could not begin to understand where to put her fingers on the fretboard, how to move her other hand over the strings. And then, too, keeping it in the living room just made her sad. Every time she looked at it, every time she had to explain to someone why she had a guitar she couldn't play, it knocked her breathless all over again. So she moved into the study upstairs, where it leaned in its stand, against the bookcase that held Nathan's collection of Hardy Boys hardcovers. Rebecca had sent those on the bus 6 months after Nathan's death. Was cleaning out the attic, the note she'd sent along read. Thought you might like these. The guitar's once bright veneer had grown dull and somewhat tacky. There were shallow gouges across the front of the body where Nathan's hands had strummed. The wood beneath was gray and dry, and fine splinters stood up out of the gouges. A layer of dust further dimmed the finish. A finer instrument, Leah knew, would be complex in its composition. This one was pasteboard and glue and ink and plastic, instead of inlays of exotic wood and mother of pearl. When she plucked its strings, it hummed discordantly. Still, for all it had been discarded, it had once had life, had been the best and most unexpected present beneath a Christmas tree. It had once been played and loved, had brought pleasure for longer than was realistic. It had transcended its roots. It had become a finer instrument. In her imagination, if not in her study, it still was. Thank you.